I am Rinku Agarwal. Currently, I am uh, heading this institute that is Poddar International School, Kalyan CBSE. Um, I've been into field of education for over 20 years now, out of which I have served Podars for around 16 years. I joined Podar International School, Pimpri, ICSE, ISC curriculum in 2007, and I worked in various leadership roles over there for around 14 years, and for last 2 years I have been here at Kalyan. So that is basically what I am today. I my education is towards commerce side. I did my 12th with science background, but I pursued commerce after that, and I did my masters in commerce, and I also did my masters in personnel management. I did my B.Ed, of course, for getting into education, and for years together, I've been into teaching, and I have been into coordinatorship and vice principal and then principal. Like we Podar Education Network have been in the field of education since 1927. It's a great organization having many schools across the country. Now we have functional almost 148 branches, and this particular school has been into existence since 2014, and this was the eighth session we had, and we are going to begin with ninth session um, from 23-24. I have a strength of a little below 1000, wherein I have a very good dedicated team of teachers who is always working towards the best for the students. And in my school, the learning or the teaching is never complete without the actual learning happens. So it's just not that the teachers would leave up to throwing away things to the students, is that the students have to catch that also. So that is about my school. We have all the facilities, like when it comes to your equipments, when it comes to the classrooms. So we have all our classrooms equipped with computers, projectors. So each of our classrooms is basically an audiovisual room equipped with all kind of facilities that are required for best possible learning outcomes. Policy definitely has, I mean, it's a paradigm shift from rote learning to experiential learning. So it does not, like the systems in our country. Basically, I'm not talking about the schools like ours, wherein the things have been very different. Like when it comes to school like ours, the students, they were into understanding, they were into application, they were also into higher order thinking skills questions. So when we had our curriculum designed, it was already in line with NEP, that is the National Education Policy, because the National Education Policy 2020 speaks about fundamental, like when we talk about FLN, so fundamental learning and numeracy, fundamental numeracy and fundamental learning and numeracy. So when it comes to FLN, we have already been into it, that we understand that our children should basically understand the thing. They should be good at languages, they should be good at mathematics at the fundamental level, that is up to grade 5. So we had already been into it, and it is trying to shift it from rote learning, the National Education Policy. So the systems, the schools, wherein mostly it was that the chapters were taught, the question answers given at the end were asked by the teachers to be put down in the notebooks. The children will write those answers in the examination again. So that used to be the system, and the parents were also after it, that the children should basically mug up whatever was given in the classroom. So that thing has shifted from there to here now, wherein the children are focusing on getting the concept, understanding the concept, and expressing the things in their own terms. And also, they are into developing different skills now when it comes to communication, wherein the classroom has to make sure that the children are expressing themselves. It's not that they are only writing and the teacher is speaking. So the classroom has to be a place wherein the students are interactive, the teacher is a facilitator, and the students are basically focused at all the time. It's not a teacher centric class, rather it's a student oriented class. So national education policy that way is definitely very important and beneficial in terms of bringing in a great change in education in our country. Because the students had been home for almost 1.5 years, and they got into their comfort zone. Most of them would sit when, though we had made it mandatory that the students shall be wearing their uniform and they should sit in a very uh, in a place which was basically meant for them only, but they were not following it, and it was very sad and unfortunate that even the parents, I mean quite a few, I'm not talking about all students, but quite a few parents were not looking after the basic requirement for learning for a student. They I mean it The student would sit on a bed, whatever they would feel like wear, and then they would not even switch on their cameras. So all these things were observed uh, at the time of online classes. And what we found that the students had become very lazy, and that continued when the children came to offline schooling. And initially it was very difficult, first of all, to get them to school. I mean, they started pretending that they wouldn't come because it was not safe. So first of all, it was a challenge to bring them back to school. Then that laziness had creeped into them, and it was seen here in the school also, wherein they did not want to study. It became difficult for them to concentrate for that long hours of the school, which they were not following at home, because uh, online online classes had their own challenges. We could not have them for the classes as long as we have them in school. These were the first problems. And then we also had started seeing the problem of cheating during the online classes in the examinations. The children had easy access of their parents, one, and there were other resources that they had. They would switch off the cameras, they would write an examination which was not an honest examination. So, and it's not about all students, but many of the students had got into that habit of cheating. So when they came to school in 21, when they started coming to school after October, and that completed, I mean that was a full-fledged thing in 22. Last year, I mean last year by February, March, they all started coming, and it became a big challenge for them to write that whole paper without any assistance, because the kind of assistance they were getting at home, that was not available to them. So that was also a challenge. And this year, when the school has been running full fledgedly, that is 2022-23, then we see that the children are coming back to track. But again, they have come with that kind of exposure which was available to them when they were online, which is very difficult for us to handle. I mean, they when I say this, I mean to say that the kind of filth that they could get exposed to, because they got all of them at an age which is not very appropriate for them. They got all their gadgets, and at that time there was no other option. The children had to be given with those gadgets for learning. But apart from the right learning, they got some wrong exposures, I would say that. And that's something which was not age appropriate. So they got the exposure of that. And now when they came back to school, they came with a very bad language, uh, uh, got into abusing, got into all kind of stuff. And now since they are back here into the school, they still have not come out of those things which they saw or they got exposed to. So probably Now since they had been home for 1.5 years, now they have been in school for 1.5 years. So I believe now the changes will again come back, and wherein the children would completely get into the post COVID mindset. I definitely would want the readers to understand that education is very important. But education definitely does not mean rote learning. It means wherein a child is prepared with expressions, with a lot of confidence, with a lot of communication skills, and the other skills. When we talk about 21st century skills, then social skills are also very important that a child learns in school. And instead of focusing on what the student scores, if we focus on what the student has, what skills he has developed in school, that would be more beneficial. I would request even the parents to understand the needs of the students. What they did probably 15 years ago when they were students, they cannot expect the same from the student of this generation, wherein the competition would be very different when they will grow up, when the probably the assessment patterns would be very different when they grow up, when the job opportunities would probably be very different from what they are now. So I would request these students to be smart more than only be academically learning and mugging up the thing. And I would request the parents to be open and wide and understand the needs of the students, which will be required at a later stage for them.